Farah Pandith is a diplomatic entrepreneur, foreign policy strategist and author. She is a world-leading expert and pioneer on how to halt extremist recruitment of Muslim youth. Appointed the first ever U.S. Special Representative to Muslim communities in 2009, she served under both Secretary Clinton and Secretary John Kerry. In this role, she was responsible for engagement with Muslims around the world. She served as a political appointee in no less than 3 administrations. She believes we can win the war on terror, but only if we have the courage to rethink, reinvent, reimagine. Since leaving government in 2014, Farah has been advising governments and building innovative global programs and organizations dedicated to mobilizing youth against extremist ideologies. We had the privilege of having Farah this year at our WIN session at Inforum. Later, she sat down with me for a fireside chat so that she could share her personal side with the WIN community. Farah, thank you so much for agreeing to be a speaker at our WIN session today and for taking some time out to do some Q&A with me for the purposes of the WIN community. Very much appreciated. We're very honored to be here today.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
So you're a household name in the United States. I see you on TV all the time. So tell us why this area? What led you to focus on this particular topic?
I've always been interested in foreign affairs. I wasn't born in America, I was born in India and came to the United States when I was a baby. Right. And every summer going back and forth to see relatives, I would have a chance growing up as a young person to see that the world was a lot bigger than just the United States. Right. And so that sense of the world, that sense of there are many different cultures and many things going on in the world was instilled in me at a very early age. So it's not surprising to me that I'm in international affairs, but what is really surprising to me is that I am working on an issue that is as complicated as extremism.
It is. So tell us what drove you there, and you're an world expert now. Everyone comes to you for your authority on the topic. So why that topic?
One of the things that I think is really surprising in one's career is that things happen and you don't plan them. In graduate school, I was working on my graduate thesis and interviewed a lot of militants in northern India. And it was the first time I actually had a chance to think about extremism. But fast forward to 9/11, when America was attacked, and I was in the private sector at the time and really felt it very strongly. Every American did. Everybody around the world felt this strongly. But for me, as an American, as a Muslim, as somebody that had studied issues around extremism and violence, I really felt a calling to go back and serve my nation. And so I came back into government right after 9/11 thinking that I was only going to be there for a few years working on this. But it was at the time when we were trying to figure out not just how to stop a group like Al-Qaeda, but how do we stop people from getting recruited? So that entire field of the ideological aspects of what's happening to young Muslim kids was something that I began to do right as we were, as a country, trying to figure out how to navigate through it.
So how do Muslims feel about the conversation happening every day about this particular group and how it purports to represent Islam?
It's a very complicated 16-year journey since 9/11 for Muslims around the world. And there isn't one answer to that question because we are seeing a chapter in world history that is so different for multiple reasons. We have an opportunity to hear news 24/7 on our smartphones. So you're consistently getting you're getting those images, you're getting the news channels, you're hearing what people have to say. At the same time that you're experiencing in an offline space, people looking at you differently, thinking about you differently. Before 9/11, the generations of Muslims growing up either in Europe or in Asia or in America were not looked at in any particular way. And in a post 9/11 world, there is always an undercurrent of the foreign policy issues that we're dealing with daily, and the fear that people have around groups like ISIS. So it's a complicated thing. There's also one other piece that I think is very important, and that is a real desire to do more to recalibrate the conversation.
Right.
And when you look at the fact that 1/4 of the planet is Muslim, we all, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, have to do more to make sure that we are puncturing any kind of extremist ideology that exists in our communities. And I think that's something that all of us can get behind.
Right. Tell us about the book that you wrote and why you wrote it.
So the book is called How We Win, and it will be out in early 2018. And I wrote it because it was important for me to make sure that the average person understands that we are not hopeless in this situation, that there is a path forward, and that there's something government needs to do for sure, but there's something that the private sector has to do and regular citizens. So the first half of the book is explaining the trends that I saw around the world. I traveled to nearly 100 countries. What's happening to Muslim millennials? You need to hear that. And then the second half of the book is, okay, now we understand the crisis of identity that's happening to Muslim millennials. How are we going to change the architecture within neighborhoods and communities so that we aren't seeing an opportunity for groups like ISIS to prey upon the world's youth?
Okay, well, I'm going to be definitely one of the first to get
I'm
that
very
book as
happy to
soon
hear
as
that.
it comes
That's
out, because
terrific.
I think a lot of us really need to be educated on the topic. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, so I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.
So let's change gears for a minute and talking about what are the values, what are the people, situations, factors that shaped you and the person that you are today?
One of the most important things for sure is having a role model like my mother,
Right.
who was a working woman. She was a physician, an early physician at a time from a culture that there weren't a lot of
really?
physicians.
My goodness.
So to have somebody who was a professional, who valued the opportunity to explore intellectually, who pushed me not to be a doctor, but to find out what my passion was in the most genuine way, allowed me to really have an open field in terms of an exploration of who I was, what I was interested in doing, where I could thrive, and that opportunity is quite rare, you know, and I really feel very lucky. But that is why, I am the person that I am
today. Well, we're all look better off for it.
Thank you.
So let me ask you then about advice you would give to young women, men, starting out in the workforce today or starting out in life today? I know it's a very broad question.
No, it's an important one, and I get that question a lot from young people because I think that there is an idea that there is a plan that you have to go down, and you put 2 years in here and 4 years in there, and take this internship and turn down that internship, and then all of a sudden you'll be that perfect person at whatever age you are. Who wants to know what they're doing 10 years from now? You don't want to know what you're doing 10 years from now.
It would be very boring.
It would be very boring, and it wouldn't allow you to find out who you really are. So one of the first things I really would say is to really ask questions about what you're passionate about. And to know that that passion is coming from you. It's not coming from your family. It's not coming from your peers. It's not the pressure that you feel because it's the protocol that's in place for your generation. But rather, if you happen to be interested in anthropology or English or history, go for it. You go do it because your path unfolds. That's the first and most important thing. And then I think the second thing, which I know to be true, and I saw it both when I was in the private sector and certainly when I was in the public sector, was that if you are ever in a place where you know more than the people around you, you are in the wrong place. You must be in a place in which the learning curve is really steep and you are not the smartest person in the room.
So very true. So very true. Farah, it was fantastic speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.